welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hasseman, and joining me today is a guy who almost needs no introduction in the promotional products industry. He is the ultimate rock star. He's the president and chief executive officer of Advertising Special Institute, or ASI. Tim Andrews, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thanks so much for the invitation. That was a very nice intro. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I kind of want to dig right in. I mean, it's been pretty well documented over the last year or so. There have been some challenging times, right? And there certainly have been plenty, so I don't want to minimize that. But I'm curious from your perspective, what are some of the positives you've seen in the promotional industry? What are some success stories you've heard?
Wow, great question. I think we've seen a few things. As I look around and visit with people and make my own observations, I think one, we've learned something we already knew, but we didn't probably appreciate as much as we had, which is we are full of entrepreneurial people.
Yes.
This industry is just incredibly blessed, frankly, to have people that can really move quickly on their business. And I think we all knew that. We know that this is an entrepreneurial driven business. We know that 85% of the distributors are 1 or 2 person operations. We know all those facts. But boy, I think that really was shined this year, and it's the suppliers, distributors all across the marketplace. We saw suppliers promoting product they'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
30 days after. If I had stopped you in Orlando at ASI in January of 2020 and said to you, PPE, I think, would you have known what I'm talking about?
I would have had no clue. Absolutely.
So that's sort of moving quickly, and entrepreneurially, I think was really great. I think the other thing is we really work together in ways we've never worked together before. Distributors saying, hey, I'm getting calls from my best customers for this PPE thing I've never heard of. Who can help me? What can I, who can I source this from? And maybe it's somebody they've worked with for a long time. Maybe it's somebody they had not worked with before. So I think that sort of interaction that we saw was really great. The other thing is that we built, I think, over the course of 2020, incredible trust in the world of promotional products in the industry we are in. There's been a lot of cynicism, over the years. We've all seen it, right? Someone using my information, all sorts of stuff that we won't even go into here. But I think this is a year where we really showed that we really trust each other. The suppliers and distributors had to trust each other to deliver a product they had never delivered before, sometimes prepaid, which is very unusual, obviously, in this industry for a full situation.
Yeah.
And from a customer's perspective, think about this: a customer saying, I need product to keep myself and my employees and my customers alive, and I trust you to do that for me. And that, to me, we need to really think about that, because that trust level. And then, frankly, fourth quarter, a lot of people were giving distributors their personal addresses for their employees, for their customers, for their prospects, and trusting that distributor supplier network to do the right thing and to deliver that product. And I think that trust mechanism is a really big deal for me. And I think for all of us, we should really be happy that we prove that to our customers.
Wow. It's funny. I have often said I was really proud of our industry about how quickly we essentially created a supply chain for things that we had not done before. But your point about trust is really good, because you're right. And it was each piece of the supply chain trusting end users, us, the distributor, the supplier, the whole thing. And that's a great, great point. I love that. So,
and for things that save lives. I mean, I think we are in an industry that sometimes we don't appreciate all that we deliver in terms of the return on investment for marketing dollars that are invested. Think about this. This is not just a marketing dollar, and for many people, for a couple of months, it wasn't even branded product. Yeah. And people trusted us, and we delivered in terms of saving lives and keeping people safe. I think that's an incredible attribute to our industry. We should really give ourselves a big round of applause for.
It's well said. Absolutely. So I'm curious, you've been in this role, essentially at ASI for a while now. So I'm always curious, why is it you do what you do? What's your inspiration for your role there?
Great question. I joined 18 years ago. I just had my 18th anniversary.
Wow, congrats.
And when I joined, one of my colleagues called me on the phone the first day and said, there's a bet going around in the industry, you won't last more than 2 years. And so I followed up, a couple of years after I'd been here and noted to people that they should be collecting on their bets. And then I found out a couple of them bet against me. So that wasn't a good idea to bring me up. But so inspiration, I think I love the people in our industry. I think what brought me in and brings in a lot of people, you come in the industry and you don't know what it is, and you start realizing it's not the industry, it's the people. Right. And everyone thinks they have a unique situation. I think we've got a really unique situation. I think that we have incredibly nice people. I think they're very smart people. I think they move quickly. And, I think it's the people. So I'm inspired by the people that want our help at ASI, and what can we do to help make them more efficient, more effective? What can we do to bring them together in a unique kind of way, in a safe way, going into the second half of this year and into next year? And so I think it's that helping people piece. I think that really inspires me and really gets me up in the morning. And my whole team, when we're talking about what are we going to be investing, our time and energy in terms of a technology platform or whatever, it's always about what can we do to help distributors and suppliers have a more efficient activity so that they have more money to invest in their own businesses and that they can spend more time with their family and friends. And so I think that's a big deal for me. That's a big deal for me. And just not me, that's all of ASI. I think that's where we come from.
I love that. And I think whenever you're wearing your sort of hat of servanthood, you're coming at it from the right perspective. So I love that. I love that answer, Tim. A couple more questions for you. So I'm curious, as someone who has reached a level of success in their life, what tips do you give for growing? So if somebody comes to you for advice, both personally and professionally, what tips do you have for growing?
Boy, I think you never sit still. And one of the things that I do to myself every year is I challenge myself with a couple or three New Year's resolutions, we can call them. They tend to be timed around that time of year. I don't always call them a New Year's resolution, but I do. And I really try to get myself out of my own comfort zone. And sometimes it's something simple that I've just been putting off, professionally or personally. And I'll share the two that I had this year. And so far, so good on both of them. First of all, and I'm sure, Kirby, you're not like this, but I had on sheets of paper and little stickums all over my desk and whatever, I had passwords for, let's call it turned out to be about 150 different websites that I had passwords for once I sort of got the thing all aggregated together. And probably, and again, I'm sure you don't do this, Kirby, but about 80% of them were the same password. So one of my resolutions for 21 was to get my password life in order, and so in early January, I signed up for one of these services that creates a place to keep, all your passwords.
Smart.
And I spent about 7 hours, which sounds like a lot of time, but that's what it was. I tracked it, about 7 hours getting my password life in order. And I now have 150 passwords, all of which are unique, all of which are long and crazy and have all sorts of things in there. And the reason I did that was because, and the reason I shared it, because this is a scary time in technology world. People can have their whole lives ruined by having passwords that are not safe. And we've all fallen into the trap of what I just described. So that was number one for this year. And the second was personal. So the personal was I grew up in Indiana. My mother was scared of the water. She could not swim. So she forbid me from ever getting in water. And so I grew up not knowing how to swim.
Okay.
And other than sort of flopping around in the kids into the pool or, on the very edge of an ocean, I have not been able to swim. So I signed up and took 12 lessons to swim.
Wow.
And so I would say that I'm not a star. I'm no Mark Spitz or whatever other person you'd want to mention. But I can definitely swim now. And so I feel great about that. I'm not scared at all. And so that's awesome. So, I just always every year try to pick a couple of things that are going to get me somewhere I'm not, and those were two that were important. Maybe one's more important than the next. I'm not sure which one, but both. I guess my theme was safety this year. Personal password safety and swimming safety.
That's incredible. I so appreciate you sharing that, because I think that's one of those things that you can feel insecure about, like the swimming piece. And no, I think that is really good. I think the lesson is just, being willing to get uncomfortable, that growth tends to, begin outside of your comfort zone. And so kudos to you. That's really, really cool. Final question.
Are you a swimmer?
I do enjoy swimming. I was, I grew up in a household that did swim. So it was around. And then I was, when I was in junior high, there's actually a local swimming team. So I now, that being said, I can swim. I'm hardly a competitive swimmer, but yeah, it's and I love the water. So it's good because I'm always around it when I can be. So
great. Yeah. I'm enjoying a lot more now that I can.
Yeah, I bet you would be. That makes sense. Makes sense. So we'll have to schedule a boat ride so that we can both feel comfortable out there. So final question for you. So who has been your best or maybe most memorable teacher or mentor? And what was a lesson that they taught you that's maybe stuck?
Oh boy. Okay. Well, single is going to be tough.
Yeah, give me a couple. That's fine.
I'm going to give you a couple.
Yeah.
One is a person. Her name is Dorothea, and I was at Dow Jones for 17 years, and she was my boss and mentor for 10 years at Dow Jones,
Wow.
and an incredible person. We still keep in touch after all these years, and really taught me you just never give up.
Mm,
And when you really believe something, you keep pushing, and you use facts to do it, and you really stick by what you think is the right thing to do. And I happen to be there in a number of roles, and partly when we were conceiving WSJ.com, the Wall Street Journal online edition, which is now one of the best and biggest sites on the web. And all the media companies, um, all around in sort of 98, 99, whatever year you want to pick, they were all setting up their websites and were not charging. And Dorothea had been the circulation director of the Wall Street Journal, and she said, we are going to charge from the first day because our content and access to our content and the amount of money we invest in our journalism is worth paying for some
mm,
price. And the journal launched with a paid site, one of the first, and I think they were really the first. I think we were
yeah.
the first. And it's been an incredible business lesson for everybody in the media industry that you don't give away great, valuable things you do. Same in our industry. I think sometimes we underprice ourselves. We give away things we shouldn't give away. We don't
Right.
value our time. A distributor will spend incredible amounts of time on a client and hours getting samples together for a $200 order or something,
Right.
and we don't think about, okay, really, am I investing the time in the right spot? So her point was, boy, you have to get, when you're delivering good value, you should get paid fairly for that. And
Yeah.
so I really learned a tremendous number of lessons from Dorothea over the course of that decade. And secondly, I've been at ASI for 18 years. Norman Cohn is an incredibly gentle, smart, wonderful mentor of mine, and has taught me so many lessons. I would say though the one that is probably number one on the list, and I could give you a long list, is we care.
Mm,
Norman really cares about every single person he interacts with, whether it's a colleague, a family member, is it an employee of ours, is it a member of ASI, a distributor, supplier? He has never met a stranger. He really cares about their lives. He really cares about what makes them, happy. I remember joining ASI, and about the second or third day, I see this pallet of pretzels going by my office, literally a pallet of pretzels. And
okay.
he walks in my office and said, you may have noticed a pallet of pretzels go by. He said, one of our technology folks just really delivered an incredible, a product, enhancement to our services. And I found out that he likes pretzels. And so I bought him a pallet of pretzels. And I thought, what an incredible guy. I've seen thousands of other examples of the course. So Dorothea and Norman, both incredible people. And I'll give you another little piece. Turns out that they winter close by together. And they had, of course, never met because, they had no connection. And so last summer, I said, would you mind, since they were wintering, or I think it was wintertime, since they were both, about 10 miles from each other, I said, would you mind if we all got together for lunch one Sunday?
That's
So
so
I went
cool.
down to Florida where they both are, and we had lunch together. The three of us had lunch together. And it was incredible to introduce them and these two very important, mentors in my life.
That had to be an incredible lunch for you.
It was awesome. Great
That's right.
photo. I got a great photo of it,
I
Kirby.
love it. I love it. Well, Tim, you've answered all my questions. So I really appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate your leadership in the industry. So thank you so much. And we'll have to do it again sometime. Okay.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate you asking me. So anytime, anything I can do to help you or anybody else.
That's awesome. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.